Welcome back for part 4 of our introduction to IEP goals and objectives and evidence-based practices. 3 components of an IEP goal down and 3 to go. All right, so we've talked about the condition, we've talked about the student and the behavior. Now we're going to talk about the criterion. And remember that the criterion is the level of the student's performance, and they need to demonstrate that across time. And this is how we know that they have met or mastered that IEP goal. So let's look at some examples. So your criterion could be the number of correct responses. So 3 out of 4 correct responses across 3 consecutive sessions. So correct responses might be like we were talking about, answering comprehension questions or solving multiplication equations, for example. Another one could be amount of time. So for 45 seconds across 4 consecutive readings. So for example, let's say that we have a student who does not engage in reading and we are starting really low. Can you do it for 45 seconds across 3 consecutive readings? And when they master that, then we're going to bump it up. Maybe we're going to bump it up to a minute and a half. So you could look at the amount of time, but it could be the amount of time again from when you gave a direction and the student started the assignment. It could be the percentage of accuracy. And so that could be 80% correct across 4 out of 5 opportunities. So again, we've got number of responses, we have amount of time, we have percentage of accuracy. Next, we're going to have rate. For example, rate might look like 10 words per minute if we're looking at reading fluency, 10 words per minute across 3 consecutive probes. Or it could be the frequency. We're looking at the frequency with which a student does something. So 3 out of 4 trials across 2 weeks. So again, the criterion is that level of performance, and notice it always is across time, and they're consecutive across 3 consecutive sessions, for example. So level of performance across time. Now, what I have created here is I have created a table for you with different types of criterion and then examples underneath. And I would encourage you to save this. Let me see if I can move myself. How about if I do this? There we go. Why don't you take a screenshot of that? It does have a star on it. I was just hiding it. But this is a really great resource for you to come back and refer to. So when you are writing your IEP goals, for example, this would be a really good resource for you to come back and refer to. Some of these you might even be able to, modify to fit your IEP goals. So this is something you could use again throughout the semester until you become proficient on writing IEP goals, and then you don't need these anymore. All right, so what I want you to do now, just give it a shot. Just give it a shot. No right or wrong. We're not correct, and we're not scoring you on whether it's correct or not. I want you to give a shot of writing 3 examples of a criterion, and there are examples on the resource I just showed you and on the previous uh, PowerPoint slide. And remember, the slides are on on Canvas if you'd like to pull those up. So go ahead and write number 6, write 3 examples of a criterion, and then put your answers underneath. And when you're finished, come on back and we'll keep going. We'll move on to the next component. All right, I look forward to seeing your criterion. And again, remember, you're just trying because we're going to come back and refer to these later on to see how you did and see if you can improve them. All right, so the next component of an IEP goal is the time frame. And this one is really easy because it's just when you expect that the student will master the goal. What do you think, at what period of time or by what date do you believe that the student will have achieved and mastered the goal that you have written? And so one thing that you want to make sure is that you want to ensure that students have truly mastered the skill. They didn't just perform it correctly one time, because that could be by coincidence. So when you are looking, that's why we need to progress monitor, and we're going to progress monitor across that time. So here are some examples of time frames. This one is really easy. So it could be by May 2026, by the annual IEP review, by the end of the school year, by the end of the semester, by May 26, 2027, by the end of the first quarter, or by the end of the IEP period. Again, these are just examples. You'll see a variety of these in IEPs that you receive for your students. All right, last component of an IEP goal. Woo, we're almost at the end of it. So this means that you have now gotten an overall view of all of the components. And the last one is the evaluation procedure or the measure that you're going to use. And so this is really the specific method of how you're going to collect data on your students' performance. It could be that you're using teacher-made quizzes. It could be that you have a data sheet that you're collecting data on. For example, I told you I work with students with complex support needs, and oftentimes I am collecting data based on the level of support or the level of prompt that they need. And so oftentimes I use a data sheet, and like I said, I might say that they required, a visual prompt, or they required a model in order to perform a skill. You're going to use things like curriculum-based measures that come with your published curricula. You're going to collect students' work samples. So there are a variety of different ways that you can evaluate students' behaviors, the skills that you've taught them in their IEP goals. And so again, you want to ensure that you are using a procedure that whatever way you are assessing the student, that you are using that consistently and that it is objective, because you need to make sure that you are progress monitoring and that the data you collect is accurate. So for example, if I am assessing a student's behavior and I am using a weekly quiz that comes with the curriculum, every time I assess that behavior, I am going to use a weekly quiz, because your reading programs would have those as part of the program. But you're going to use that because it's hard to compare data if this time I used a quiz that came with my published curriculum. The next time I did an observation and I took anecdotal reports or took notes. The next time I used a data sheet and I marked it based on whether or not I provided them with prompts. There's no way for me to get an accurate measure to monitor that student's progress unless I am consistently using the same procedure. I'm using it over time, and that method that I'm using is objective. So again, you're going to always include your evaluation procedure in your IEP goals. And so again, here just an example. This is another thing that you might want to go ahead and take a screenshot of, because it just gives you a variety of examples for you to refer back to. So again, could be things like frequency recording, duration recording, how long did something, duration is how long something occurred or how long it took for something to start. Frequency, how often. It could be you use a behavior rating scale. You could use rubrics. Again, a variety of different assessment tools. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to write 3 examples of evaluation procedures that you think you'll use with your students. It could be one of the evaluation procedures or measures that I've mentioned, and you're like, I think I would use this, or it can be something you've used before or that you've heard of that you think you would use. So go ahead and write that question, and then write your answer. Stop the video before you do that, and then come on back and we'll wrap this up. All right, welcome back. So let's just really quickly look at a couple of examples. And so what I want you to do, as a matter of fact, I'm going to do one, and then I want you to stop the video and read through them, because it would be easier for you and more meaningful for you if you read them and then looked at what they were. So let's just look at one really quickly. Reading comprehension goal. Given a grade level passage, that's the condition under which the student's going to perform the skill. Sam will correctly answer comprehension questions. Answering comprehension questions is the behavior with 80% accuracy across 3 data sessions. That's our criterion. By the end of the school year, that's our time frame as measured by teacher-created assessments. All right, so I'm going to pull the other one up. I want you to stop the video, just read the IEP goal, and then I'll move forward. Here's one related to a communication goal. All right, let's keep going. Hopefully you stopped the video and read it and then you came back. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you just to give it a shot. Just give it a shot to write one IEP goal using the template. Because again, if you use that template, you're going to have all the components in it. I don't want you to worry about whether it's right or wrong. What I want you to do is to go back and refer to the PowerPoint, the resources that you have. Remember, it's on the Canvas page, and I want you to give it a shot. And then we are going to come together. You can see in each of these the activities that we're going to do. We're going to bring all this together when we're in class in person, and we're going to work with a peer. We're going to work in a small group, and we're going to look at the things that we've written and analyze them. And that's going to be part of our learning on how to write an IEP goal. So go ahead and stop the video, write your IEP goal, and then we'll come back. All right. I look forward to seeing those because again, this was just an overview, so it'll be a really good informal assessment for me to read those IEP goals. All right. What I want you to do right now is to give yourself a thumbs up if you're checking your understanding. You're like, I'm getting this, I'm getting it. If you're right here, like I'm a little bit iffy, I got some of it, but I'd like more instruction or more time with it. You're going to have that. Or I'm completely lost. And as always, you know, I'm going to say this. If you have any questions, it is important that you write those on your document, that you reach out to me, and that you ask them in class. All right, I will see you in our next video.